All right, we are in the middle of doing masterclasses, little mini masterclasses on the podcast that coincide with the 2-hour plus masterclasses I'm giving all this year on many different subjects for food truck owners. Today, we are up to risk management and contingency planning for food trucks. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Table Needs welcomes you to listen in as Christian and Tracy, co-owners of Restless Coffee, spill the beans on their debut year in the food truck scene. Uncover the secrets behind their secret menu, how they continually provide stellar customer service, and why building a strong community following is so important. Click the link in the episode description to watch the video for free. Now, if you've ever been to a corporate meeting and somebody entitles that meeting Risk Management and Contingency Planning, you know it's going to be a boring meeting, but they are two very important things. So let's understand what we're up against as far as whether it's boring or not. In the food truck world, risks range from things that I know have experienced if you've been open any length of time, and that would be risks from equipment failure. And how about weather disruptions? How about health hazards? How about legal compliance issues? All of those things are a risk to your business. So let's talk about how to get around some of those risks that you could be facing. Equipment failures happen all the time. Sometimes there is not a thing you can do in the world because man-made things wear out, but you can prolong the wearing out process. Conduct regular equipment checks and maintenance. If your piece of equipment is brand spanking new, it's either got a link to its owner's manual or it came with a printed owner's manual. Somewhere buried in that owner's manual is what you should be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual basis. Put all of those things on your calendar and make sure they get done. The equipment that you got on your truck, whether it's refrigeration or an air conditioner or a heated equipment, a holding station, all of those things are the heart of your business. Doing without one or more of them is a royal pain, and in a lot of cases means you're out of business for the day. Regular maintenance helps prevent those kind of costly breakdowns. But what about weather? We can't prevent weather, can we? You want to have a weather app on your phone that you understand how it works and has some bit of reliability in its ability to predict for your area. My favorite, my go-to since the early 2000s has been one called Weather Underground. They tend to give you more actionable information that is closer to right than some other weather apps. We use them to make all of our decisions, and we'll talk about some of the decisions that you would have to make with weather here in a second. But you got to have a good source of information before you can even think about making decisions on weather. So find that app that makes sense for your area. You don't want to go set up and then realize that, oh, there's a storm brewing right above your head. In most cases, storms, especially large storms, can be predicted a few days in advance. So find those apps. You want to have safety and health protocols. Now, a lot of health departments are requiring that employees sign off on these little pieces of paper that say, if I am sick with these certain symptoms, I will notify my boss and understand I cannot work. You got to make sure that you have that if your health department requires it. And if they don't require it, go ahead and have it anyway. And then you want to train your employees on the sanitation side if they do have some of those symptoms, because they could have those symptoms come on in the middle of work. So they got to be able to tell you that, hey, I've got this problem, I need to go. But you don't want them having contaminated everything in your food truck as they walk in to tell you that, hey, I've got diarrhea now. And they're touching the counters and touching everything else. Make sure you have those safety protocols, especially pertaining to health, and your employees know what they are and that you are adhering to them. You don't look at the line and go, well, you got diarrhea, but hey, just suck it up. I need you to help cook these burgers. That ain't helping you, and it ain't helping your business, and it certainly isn't helping your guests out there. Now, the contingency plans. So let's talk about the weather one, because I know you're going, well, how do we handle the weather? Have a contingency plan. All that is a predetermined decision based on something. So for us in dealing with weather, I'm in Florida, so we have hurricanes. We have those all the time. They don't always come here. They come to other parts of the country, but we always have to deal with them passing by. Will they be passing by close enough to impact us or not? So a contingency plan for us is what is the projected wind speed, and what do we do when it hits that projected wind speed? So, for example, we have flags and we have umbrellas and we have an outdoor heater. All of those things can be torn up by wind, especially if it's straight line, consistent wind, not wind gusts. So once the wind has a consistent speed of 35 miles an hour, we don't open. Now think about 35 miles an hour is a constant wind. It's like driving with your top down if you have a convertible. It's like riding on the bow of a cruise ship. They go at about 35 knots an hour. And that is a crazy amount of wind that never dies down. Now, I'm not talking gusts. I'm talking consistent wind. So once the wind speed hits 35 miles an hour, we know we're going to close. You got to make those decisions. How much projected rain is going to make you close? Is it going to be 1 inch, a half inch? What is that projected rain accumulation? You know, half inch of rain is just sprinkles. Maybe you close, maybe you don't. 1 inch of rain is constant. There's just really no point in being open. But if you choose to be open, what are you going to do to make sure people get to your business and they don't have to deal with the rain? Are you doing more calling orders? Are you going to walk the food out under an umbrella? What are you doing? You got to have that plan in place. It's not one of those where you wake up and go, uh-oh, it's raining. Have the plan in place. One of the other things you want to consider once you get beyond dealing with weather is having a financial buffer. So you have that equipment that breaks down and it takes you out of business for a day. You may or may not be covered under your insurance. So let's say you're not covered under your insurance. How do you make sure you get through the day or 2 days that you're down on that equipment not working? Bills still got to be paid. You should have a financial buffer. There should be money in the bank that you are not touching to get you through those lean times. We talked about that on our break-even point masterclass. You got to have money in the bank for when things go wrong. And then that fund helps pay the bills when the sales can't pay the bills. Then you got to have a plan that would be called an emergency response plan. What do you do if? What do you do if there's a fire? What are the steps? And every employee needs to know. You know, fire breaks out. Do we put it out? What do we do? Where do we find the extinguisher? Where do we pull the Ansel system? What happens if there's an accident? What happens if somebody crashes into your trailer? What happens if you wreck the trailer? When you think about what could happen and you have a plan in place, it makes dealing with those things a little bit less stressful. Many of you guys know I've worked in restaurants for the last 40-some years, and in 2 restaurants, but 3 different occurrences, we had cars crash through the windows. One lady backed her car up into our building because her foot slipped off the brake, hit the gas, and she crashed into the building, which threw shards of glass everywhere. Luckily, there was no guests in the building at the time, but our salad bar and our hot bar was fully set up and it got sprayed with glass. So we lost all of that food. Then, of course, we had to close the dining room for a while we got the thing repaired. So we had a loss of sales. One of the other restaurants that I had, and this was almost funny, guy pulls up or drives up to the front, parks, comes inside, he's going to order food, lets the kids in the car. Well, the kids got behind the steering wheel and they was, changing gears and having fun. Car was running. So when they changed the gears, it jumped the curb and crashed into the building. All it did was break the glass and knocked over a couple of little marketing displays that we had. Nobody was hurt. It took us about 4 weeks to get the glass in to replace it. 2 days after the glass is replaced, same thing happens. Same piece of the building gets hit again. Accidents happen. You got to be prepared for them. What are you going to do? Is it going to be covered by insurance? Does your insurance have that in its policy somewhere? And if it doesn't, that means you're the one that's self-insured. Do you have money set aside? Now, if you're thinking that there's nothing to worry about, those things might happen, but it happens to other people, never happens to you. I want you to think about COVID. COVID impacted a whole bunch of people. There was no one in 2019 that would have said, yeah, the government's going to close down the whole world for 2 weeks. No one would have thought that. Hadn't been done in over 100 years. Why would we think that? You just got to understand it could happen. And it could be something as simple as the FDA sends out a meat recall for hot dogs. This happened in 2017. It was only on one brand of hot dogs, and it was only because bone shards and plastic was found in a few batches of hot dogs. So they recalled all the hot dogs that were produced in that plant for that particular day. And it ended up being several thousand pounds of hot dogs. But it was one specific brand. Now, what the news organizations put out was hot dogs recalled, not specific brand hot dogs recalled. So now all the hot dog vendors And hot dog cart owners were panicked, and justifiably so, because a lot of the news organizations only said the name of the brand in the article or in the video. The only thing that the consumer saw was hot dogs are recalled. So they avoided hot dogs and hot dog vendors for about 10 days. What would you do if your main meat product was recalled? How would you handle that? Have that plan in place today so you're not surprised when it happens. So come back in tomorrow. We've got a little bit more to go on this 12-episode series of the masterclasses for 2024. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.